The following are the words of Lou Civello, president of the Suffolk County Police Benevolent Association.
Police officers risk their lives to protect our communities and keep our streets safe. These officers are the thin blue line that stands between your family and the criminals that would do them harm. We are your neighbors, protecting your neighborhood. Hold the line. Support law enforcement. Stand with the Suffolk County PBA.
The following radio show is live, except for the announcement you're hearing right now.
Welcome back to Your Island Live with your host, Tom Schiliro, on 103.9 LI News Radio.
And once again, welcome back. Moving right along. As promised, every other Tuesday we have with us the Suffolk County president of the Suffolk County PBA, Lou Civello. Always great to have him on. We get into some great conversations that I know a lot of you folks write in about and so on. I didn't know that, or that's kind of interesting. This is all happening. And you know what the great thing is? Right after Lou, we have District Attorney Ray Tierney. He's on really the same Tuesday that Lou is on every other week. And there's so much similarity to the type of cases that they deal with. In terms of our police officer, Lou represents our police officers and what they do out on the street. And but you cannot separate that, because District Attorney actually issued a statement that I'll read today that Lou is on about our Suffolk County police officers. But let's say hello. Lou Civello, how are you?
Hey, Tom. Very well, thank you. Good afternoon, and happy to be here with you. And
it's St. Patrick's Day, Lou. Is that going to be a busy for the officers? Are they going to be busy tonight?
Absolutely, and it's a day close to our hearts here in the police department. So there's a great tradition in the Irish community and policing. Yeah. So it's a day that we both celebrate, but it's also a busy day for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always gotten a kick out of it. The parades. I went into the New York City parade once, and there were more New York City cops there than almost parade goers. It was incredible, and they were all having a good time, Lou.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, they were celebrating their heritage. I think everybody's Irish today.
Everybody's Irish today, without a doubt. Okay, now, one of the things I like the comparison that I had made earlier, is because it just tends to work out that way. Every Tuesday that you're on, our DA is on. And one of the things that DA Ray Tierney did when he came into office was he started to look at the quality of life crimes, and even so much, I wouldn't even know if I would call this quality of life. You go out to your car in the morning and you go to start it, it's making all sorts of noise. It barely would even start because somebody took your catalytic converter. And that was a big thing, if you remember, as you well know. And we've done we meaning through the Office of the District Attorney, represented by the people, did a great job working with the police department and working with some of the different units within our police department, the men and women of the Suffolk County PD. Did a lot to try to quell that. And DA Ray Tierney was right behind doing the prosecutions with that, too. Now, there was just recently, I may have the date, I think it was around March 9th, a Suffolk County police officer was injured. Well, and again, capturing these evildoers, these thugs, they come out of Brooklyn or the Bronx. Why they choose Suffolk County, I'll never figure it out. But what happened in that case, Lou? You were a little bit upset.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think sometimes it's because no one has any catalytic converters left in the city, so they have to move east. Right?
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, of course, I jest a bit there, but I think they feel that we're an easy target sometimes because Long Island, to a certain extent, after a certain hour, it goes underground. Your driveways are left. There's not a lot of foot traffic. And it's easy enough for them to get under the car, and within a few minutes, sometimes even a few seconds, they're able to cut that catalytic converter out, do just a tremendous amount of damage to your vehicle, and get away with it. And it's big business. So you have these, in many cases, teams of organized crime coming out. They're violating you in your own home, like I said, in your driveway many times. Doing tremendous amount of damage, people just getting up, wanting to go to work, and they find that their cars are destroyed. Taking this material, bringing it back to the city, stripping out the precious metals, etc. And in many cases, these are violent people, people connected to gangs. So very, very serious crime. DA has done a tremendous job prosecuting these people, and our officers a tremendous job tracking these people down and arresting them. And in this case, no exception. Officer Christopher, tremendous job. He had dealt with this many times before in his sector more or less, being terrorized by these people. And he stopped them in their tracks, got into a foot pursuit, snapped his ankle, Tom, snapped his ankle, and continued to try to get up and run on that ankle to catch them. Yeah. And, in this case, ended up in the hospital for almost a week, needed significant medical treatment, needed surgery on the ankle. And one of the very galling things, and we did capture these individuals, but one of the very galling things is that if not for that very significant injury to our officer, if he doesn't spend a week in the hospital and needs surgery, well, if not for that these criminals were walking free due to the bail reform law. Yeah. So they would have just been, after coming out here, traveling in from the Bronx, victimizing Suffolk County residents, doing all this damage, in people's very, very driveways, they would have walked free.
Yeah, and that's one of the one of the pet peeves of our district attorney is the frustration they have, and of course our police department has it too. The mere fact that what has occurred since, and we're almost looking at an anniversary of that. So it's almost 6 years since we've had bail reform, and the injustice towards law enforcement has never gone away. And this is a perfect example of it. The district attorney is going to bring up another case following you today, is that 3 Salvadorian nationals are arrested for possessing Molotov cocktails. I know you're familiar with that because I think that there was something on the website that we tell all the folks to go on to see some of the press releases that you folks put out and some of the things that our great police officers doing, that they had arrested 3 Salvadorian nationals. They had, terrorists in their heart, or terrorism in their heart, possessing Molotov cocktails or whatever they were going to do. All 3 defendants were released following their arraignment. This is in Suffolk County District Court. This is what the district attorney had put in his release, the people's inability to request bail and the court's inability to set bail under the New York State bail laws. Now, yes, the DA prosecutes the case, but it's your men and women that go out there and risk their lives to nail these people. So this has got to be something that we need to, bring to the light to the public, Lou.
It is, Tom, and it's beyond disheartening, beyond demoralizing for these officers. So, 2 excellent, outstanding Suffolk County police officers, Officer Corrado and Officer Doge, the 2 of them, this starts out with very proactive police work. So it's a suspicious vehicle. They see this vehicle, it's suspiciously in the middle of the street, idling. They stop the vehicle, they do some old-fashioned police work, and what they find essentially is the weapons of terror, Molotov cocktails, right? Yeah. There's only one reason that you have something like that, and that's to burn something down, right? Either a building or a vehicle. Untold tragedy that could have taken place, averted, just outstanding work by the police. And what happens? They let them walk. They walk because of bail reform, and it's not the fault of our DA. Our DA is prevented from even asking for bail in this case, and it's ludicrous, Tom. It's absolutely ludicrous. It harkens back to that body, the dismembered body that was dropped in the park. Every time we have one of these egregious outcomes, we hear again and again, well, this will be the last time. But yet it keeps happening here in Suffolk County, and it's totally demoralizing for our police officers. Those 2 police officers very well could have gotten hurt, seriously hurt, God forbid. When you're talking about arresting these criminals that are obviously going to do this ultra-violent act, gang affiliations, these officers put their life on the line to prevent this tragedy, and New York State just lets them walk free.
Yeah. And again, it's almost like I can't believe that we're talking about this, but one thing that your organization has done, you have a whole section on bail reform on your website. That's why we tell the folks, go to the website, read about some of the frustration levels that do exist because of this. And we can't let this issue go away. It's got to still be brought to the forefront. I just want to read to you a statement from the district attorney, Ray Tierney, regarding this case that you're talking about. And he starts this statement out by saying, thanks to the great work of Suffolk County police officers, these Molotov cocktails were discovered and neutralized before anyone could be heard. This alleged conduct will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and my office will be working with our law enforcement partners to make sure that individuals who seek to endanger our citizens and our police are caught and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I commend the DA for doing that. I commend the DA for recognizing your folks to doing what they're doing. But what about the New York State Assembly, New York State Senate, the governor? What about them, Lou?
Yes, and I think they want you to believe that this issue has been resolved. It's a lie, Tom. It's an outright lie. This issue is not resolved. This issue continues to come up. This issue continues to put our police officers in danger. It continues to put our residents in danger. We have a revolving door of justice. The biggest change that is needed is that judicial discretion. They stripped all the power away from judges. Any judge in his right mind, when you bring this case to him and you tell that judge, these individuals, criminals, known criminal history, were stopped in the act. They were caught with Molotov cocktails.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that any judge is going to cut those two loose, but we can't even ask for bail. Right? So 3 Salvadorian nationals. These are not American citizens. This is a place where we should have ICE involved, where bail reform should have a rational part to it, where we should be able to give the judges the discretion to hold on to these individuals.
What did they say up there? I'm talking about Albany. Look, as far as what we know on our show here, we do the Albany Report on Thursdays. The support of 90% of the legislative delegation from Nassau and Suffolk County support DA Ray Tierney, support the Suffolk County PBA, the Nassau County PBA. We know that. But when it comes down to finally getting a push on this so that it becomes more bipartisan, so that we understand that, look, your words, when it came to terrorism, Molotov cocktails, look, this is all real. This all really happened. We're not doing a made-up case. The folks listening right now are going to hear it in minutes, when right after the 1 o'clock hour, with the district attorney talking about this case. Very frustrated when it comes to this, and it comes to bail reform. He makes no bones about it. He'll even criticize judges. I don't want to get too much into that, but he'll criticize judges for doing this when, in essence, is it really, I believe we got a good judiciary in Suffolk County. I think they're hamstrung by the law. And do you see any movement on this? I know you guys spend a lot of time talking to the politicians, and you have your lobbyists up there and so on. What do you hear?
Certainly from the Long Island delegation. I think there's support on both sides of the aisle to amend this. I think they see how ludicrous it is. The problem is New York City. We saw they just elected this socialist mayor. You have the DSA essentially in control of New York City, and I think many times they're just afraid of their left flank. So I don't know if there's going to be a change. I've had this discussion directly with the governor, relayed my concerns to her, relayed the concerns of our officers. So she's well aware, and it is an election year. So let's see what she does in this budget. I would be hopeful that there would be a common sense change, but I truly am not optimistic about this moving anytime soon.
That's what I hear about. And, anytime soon is becoming 6 years. And it's almost hard to believe when one does. What does your membership say when it comes to this? Do they?
Yeah, on this issue, they're disgusted. It is so demoralizing to risk your life to arrest a criminal that's about to just cause carnage, and then have that criminal let loose. I mean, it's demoralizing even with the lower level crimes when you have thefts. Because you want to think that you took this person off the street, you're going to prevent another victim from happening, and instead they're put right back out there to do the same thing again. So it becomes a revolving door, it becomes Groundhog's Day essentially for our police officers, and it's very, very disheartening. And we've been advocating, as you know, Tom, from the beginning of this thing to say you got to fix it. You got to fix it. We understand what you were trying to do in the first place. We understand about taking the money out of the criminal justice system. You have to deal in reality, though. You have nothing to tether these people to the judicial system when you're just letting them go. You need something that's going to bring them back to court. You need something that's going to prevent them from committing the same crimes over and over and over again. And right now, we don't have that.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you when you go to the precinct and you do an arrest processing, how many times I hear from police officers, and I'd be curious to see how many times you hear the same exact thing, that when they do have a subject that they're processing and the sheet comes running out of the computer or whatever they still do, it's been a long time for me, almost 10 years since, I don't know if how they print it out or whatever, and they see that the person they have sitting in front of them at arrest processing is got 10, 15, 20 different priors, in many cases for the same thing. And all of the dispositions, many times released. That alone has got to drive you crazy. Do you hear that?
It does, yeah. I hear it a tremendous amount. It is truly disheartening, and it truly puts the handcuffs on the police. This is where we should have a rational law. We should be working with our federal partners, which is another issue, closely tied to bail reform, where we have these violent criminals that are in the country, and we're being prevented from kicking them out of our country. And when we do arrest them, they just get let go. So think about that from the point of view of the police officer, right? Here's a crime I know I can prevent. Here's a future victim I can prevent from being a victim, and yet my hands are being tied.
That's always been in my mind, and I know a lot of police officers feel the same way. If you do your job and you do it well, you could actually make one less victim, and the trauma that's associated with being a crime victim. And I think that's one of the gratitude that you feel inside as a police officer. The governor's bill, she's calling it the crime bill. And is there a steadfast opinion about that? She wants all local law enforcement not to cooperate with ICE, similar to what Spanberger is doing in Virginia, because they had a pretty notable case there about a 19-year-old that was enrolled at Fairfax County High School at 19 and decided during the classes when they were changing classes that he would grope all the young girls and so on. This is a 19-year-old in a high school, which really doesn't make much sense to me, too. But Spanberger, the governor there, is not going to relent on that local law enforcement should not cooperate with federal law enforcement, particularly ICE. What is the position on that, Mo?
So we are absolutely opposed to the governor's change. That's those 287G agreements. Those actually facilitate and help us do our jobs, working with our federal partners. It allows the federal government to use county resources, county facilities, etc., especially in the most violent of cases. Criminals that we know are going to hurt more people, and that would effectively prevent us from doing that. So we are absolutely opposed to it.
Okay,
what I will say is what it doesn't prevent is us responding if ICE is an emergency situation. I mean, that's the bare minimum. That's the hill that we would die on, Tom. If they would tell us you can't respond to another officer, federal officer, who is being attacked, hurt, God forbid, killed, we need to be able to respond. It does not prevent us from doing that, but that is really the bare minimum. What it does prevent is from us effectively policing with our federal partners. There is a symbiotic relationship with our federal partners, and once you sever that, it is a colossal mistake.
One of the experiences that I had as a law enforcement officer, and this goes back a while, was the crash of flight TWA 800 and what that was like that night. I was on the beach that night working, and it was incredible. But what really got to me was the aftermath and the different agencies that worked together. The FBI, ATF or DEA, the New Jersey State Police, the New York State Police, the Suffolk County Police, of course, all working together. And I think a big part of putting a lot of that together was because of that, as you say, symbiotic relationship that existed. It almost seems today that there's like a hands-off position, no matter what. I know that was a catastrophic plane crash, one of the worst in American history. But at the same time, what we're looking at right now, ICE agents, federal officers needing help, just not getting it, Lou.
Yeah, it certainly, that relationship has degraded because of the polarization and the politicization of the state government and the federal government, where, they're trying to score political points rather than let us do our job for the safety of the citizens. That was one of the worst tragedies we've ever seen here on Long Island at TWA. I pray to God nothing like that ever happens again. But once you start putting this wall between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement, God forbid if it does, it may have a tragic outcome. We may not be able to respond as effectively to that or any number of things. You start talking about terrorist attacks, Tom, right? We have the U.S. Open this summer out on the East End. Drone attacks. I mean, we need those federal resources. If there were a drone swarm, which is not out of the realm of possibilities, to attack a large gathering like that, we don't have local resources to counteract that. That's where we need federal resources, we need federal money, we need federal cutting-edge technology. And once you start throwing up these roadblocks, hey, don't work with ICE, don't work with Homeland Security, we're gonna actually pass laws to prevent you from doing that. Well, you are putting the people of Suffolk County in danger.
Right. And we got to keep that word out there, and let's hope we could lobby what we can to get a bill that this governor doesn't see as a division between law enforcement agencies, because that's how I see it. Once again, Lou Civello, president of Suffolk County PBA. Thanks so much. We always appreciate your input into our program, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks, my friend. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Tom.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, let's talk to the DA, Ray Tierney, coming up next.